Hey, folks. I have a relatively content-free video today. There's no technical stuff in this. It's just about the state of the world as it relates to open source versus commercial stuff. And I've entitled it "Leave," i.e., all roads lead to open platforms. So, um, in 1996 or so, I was a security auditor at a tiny, tiny little company in Bethesda, Maryland. And they subsidized my uh, acquisition of an MCSE. I don't know if this title still exists. It probably does. But I was becoming a Microsoft certified systems engineer, which just meant that I read some stuff and I passed some tests. But it was rather expensive. I think it was, I don't know, $8,000 or something. Um, I paid for maybe a third of it, and they paid for the rest of it, something like that. And I was quite happy to get that certification, um, because I had already worked in the IT industry for a while, mostly doing systems administration stuff and networking. And at the time, Windows NT was, I guess you could say, ascendant, on the server side. I guess what I guess it was Windows NT at that time. Yeah, it was Windows NT 4. And um, with when I got this certification, uh, it came with like 6 free calls to tech support for Microsoft tech support, which was, they're really expensive. I mean, calls to Microsoft tech support for sort of getting a hold of high top level engineers were $200-300 piece in 1996. And uh, I, I coveted those calls. I did not use them. Um, I didn't use them for about 2 years. And after I had left this security auditing company, I was working for, maybe I was working for myself. I forget. But I was on site at some godforsaken business somewhere, probably some insurance company or something. And they had Windows 95 clients set up with a roaming profile. And they had Windows NT server of some kind. And when they pulled up Microsoft Explorer, the File Explorer, whatever it's called, file manager thing, and they went to the network tab, it was either blank or didn't, or there were too few shares showing or something like that. And it turned out that like the server was exporting, like, for whatever reason I don't understand, like 300 shares or something, and Windows 95 just choked on this and couldn't deal with it. I think Windows NT as a client worked fine, but Windows 95. So, after a bunch of Googling, I decided that now was the time. This is a couple years later after I got my MCSE. Now was the time I'm going to use one of my calls. And I called and I said, "Hey, I'm MCSE number blah 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 blah. I'm here to collect." And they said, "Sorry, sir, those those tickets, the granting of your free support calls have expired." And it had only been it had been okay, fine. It's been a couple years, all right. But for $8,000 fucking, I was fucking incensed by the idea that this mega corporation would not grant me technical support for something there's no chance of me fixing myself. It's obviously a bug in the OS, all right. Because fuck you, right? And before that, I had, even as early as like 93 or so, I had been sort of paying attention to like Linux, Caldera Linux, some other stuff. And I was always fascinated by Unix because I didn't really grow up on Windows. I had an Amiga, whatever. So I was not really sold on Microsoft when they came out, but it was the only game in town if you wanted to do professional work. So I thought to myself, fuck these people. Fuck these people. And I really started to get into Linux at that point. Now, this is out of spite. Don't get me wrong. It's out of spite. But spite's a powerful motivator. And I started to use Red Hat Linux. It was probably Red Hat Linux 5 or something like that. Like one of the very early Red Hat Linux releases. And it was a mess. It was terrible, except not as terrible as getting, butt fucked by Microsoft. So as my career progressed, I wound up at a company in Philadelphia that was a consulting company, and the local energy company asked us to develop them an intranet. Intranets were all the rage at the time. This is probably 97-ish, something like that. And the company that I worked with happened to be a Microsoft partner of some kind. There were also partners with a bunch of things. I think Lotus was still around and stuff. And I must admit, the company, although the people who worked there were excellent, the company was pretty bullshit. It was pretty scammy. Not really scammy. I mean, I don't think anybody got ripped off, but it was lots of words, lots of talk, little action, that sort of thing. But PG&E, the company, it was Pico, I forget, but the company, the energy company that wanted the internet, asked one of our salespeople, and he said to me, "Did you think you can make this thing?" Now, understand that it is 1997. I am like, the juniorest of possible developers. I'm like this big. I'm like, I don't even know what transactions are. And I remember going to my boss at this company, who was a reasonably good technologist, and I remember saying, okay, whatever. I was going to make choices about something. This had nothing to do with the Pico thing. This was something else. I said I want to use MySQL, and he's like, MySQL doesn't have transactions, right? I said, what are transactions? Anyway, so I was the weakest of possible developers at this point. But I was also incredibly motivated. I was fired up by all this open source stuff, particularly something called Zope, which is faded in the annals of history now, but had this really mind-bending ability to add code in a browser. So it was sort of like, not quite. It wasn't as all encompassing as something like Smalltalk, but it was Smalltalk-ish. You could walk up. It was like a tree of objects. You walked up to them, added methods to them. Folders had methods. It was weird, but it was super cool. And it had security and some other stuff. And it was a totally reasonable option to build this internet. So he asked me to build it. I said, fine, I'll build something, whatever. Of course, there's no requirements, vaguest of requirements, which is kind of why this company was a little bit bullshit. They didn't do very good requirements gathering. Probably also my fault. It probably fell onto me as well. But I started it, and I started it in Zope. I didn't ask anybody. I just did it. And, the guy who's selling it, he don't care. He don't give a shit what it's written in. We showed it to the people. They're ecstatic. They're like, this is great. Fantastic. They have to put documents in a place. It's like a document management system. It literally took me if I had actually known Zope, it probably would actually take me longer if I actually knew Zope, because I would do it, the right way. I wouldn't try to do it through the web, but I did it all in this visual programming thing in a browser. And man, it took me like 2 days or something like that. I think it actually took me a little longer because I had to hook up to their, what's now called Active Directory, but I think then it was something else. But anyway, I had to figure out how to do that, which side thing got me into the community because I had written this thing in horrific Python that let you log in to Zope using your credentials from Active Directory. It wasn't Active Directory. It wasn't even LDAP. It was even worse than that. It was bad. So anyway, customers happy. It took minimal amount of time, right? Customers not getting ripped off. It works fine. It's secure. It does what they need it to do. Whatever. They're jazzed, right? And I'm jazzed. I'm this terrible developer, who has succeeded, and all of a sudden the I guess person in charge of partnerships there, which was really the owner's girlfriend, whatever, came in and said, "Hey, Chris, look, I'm afraid that we're going to have to not use what you put at Pico." I said, "Well, they're happy with it. What's the problem?" "Well, we got a call from the Microsoft people today, and they're very upset that we didn't use their site server product." Now, site server, I don't know if there's a modern equivalent of site server. I doubt it. But site server was the closest thing to a Zope that they had, that let you build web apps. And it was all fucking Microsofted out. It was ActiveX and fucking ASP and all this crazy shit that no one wants to know. All right. Now, it probably would have worked fine, but I didn't want to know that. I saw no future in it whatsoever. I happened to be right, thank God. But yes. So at the end of the day, I lost this battle, and they went to the energy company and said, "I'm sorry, we're gonna have to start over again. This is just not what. Sorry about this." But Microsoft bullied them into getting something they didn't need or want, and they capitulated because Microsoft was incredibly powerful. All right, Microsoft threatened to the company I work for to not send any more referrals their way, and that was the problem. Now, as a result of me using Zope, I had gotten into this community, and when I heard that, I just said, "You know what? I'm fucking out of here. This is dumb." And I actually sent an email to Paul Everett, who's now my business partner, many years later. This is 20 years ago, right? And I didn't know him from Jack. I don't know any of these people. I said, "Are you looking for people?" Anyway, long story short, I got hired there. I got hired at Zope. Now, it's by sheer the grace of God that I've been able to do this, but I haven't written a line of code in a language that I haven't really wanted to. Mostly, I've written mostly in Python. I haven't had to write anything else since then, and that has been an incredible boon. I don't have to worry about licensing. I don't have to worry about talking to Microsoft people. I don't have to worry about calling up and having my 6 free tech support calls gone. And worse than that for Microsoft, I never will recommend them to anyone, ever. It will just not happen. All right, I'm not going to go out and slag them off, other than this video. Now they're a totally different company now, but tough shit. All right, they were a total shit company for decades. Their entire OS market has been hollowed out, or their entire server OS market has been hollowed out by Linux, and I can only hope that the rest of it, the desktop market, over time is hollowed out even further. I mean, that's my opinion about Microsoft. I do not care about Microsoft. They can go to hell, right? So, in that case, that was an example of all roads leading to open platforms. You're talking about a company that is obscenely profitable, not just profitable, not just successful, but obscenely profitable. Having their ear to the ground, some junior developer making something that doesn't adhere to their will. It seemed unreal to me to do that, And that's the kind of place you wind up when you make a deal with those people. So in this case, for me anyway, all roads led to open source and open platforms at that point. So fast forward, uh, until like 2007, something like that, I became enamored with the Apple ecosystem. I was a Python developer at that point. I've been a Python developer for some time, and I think this is around the era of macOS Tiger, Leopard, Snow Leopard. I think you Apple people, you'll tell me what I got wrong there, but so I was drawn in. A lot of people that I worked with used Macs. They had been Mac OS 9 folks, back in the day, and they just kind of jumped over to Mac OS 10. There wasn't sort of necessarily this sort of cultish devotion to Mac OS at that point, because it was pretty new. So I actually didn't mind it so much. I found it fairly annoying sometimes, but this is well before the time when Macs became a closed platform. I could upgrade the RAM and put a new hard drive in my machine if I wanted to. It wasn't quite as horrible as it is now. But the one thing that that shook me loose from being happy with that is, for a hot minute, Apple decided to charge money to download Xcode, which is their development platform. Now the thing is, Xcode is basically a bunch of GUI stuff with GCC in it to compile code. And so you need GCC to basically do anything, like to do anything as a developer. I mean, you just need it. And I'm sure this is probably well before like Homebrew and that sort of thing. There just wasn't a simple way to get it, other than to get it from Apple through Xcode. And that just pissed me off. I mean, it was like $25, but it was $25 per time that you did it. Like at the time when you said download Xcode, it wanted $25, whatever. And I decided, like, okay, how many times am I going to do this? I'm going to do this a lot. There's going to be a fucking lot of downloads of Xcode in the future for me if I'm on this platform. I don't think I want to give that money to them. Now, granted, it's hard to blame them, because it's a fucking huge download. It's like gigabytes and gigabytes of stuff. But that's their problem. They jammed it all together. All right, they didn't factor it out. They want people on their platform. That's their problem. It is not my problem. All right. So I ditched my Mac, and I'm so glad I did, because I went back to Linux, which it was crap. I mean, it was crap. Fine, but at the same time, it just got better. Over time, I used Ubuntu. And the thing about using Ubuntu at the time, I actually went for an interview to go work at Canonical. It wasn't a really fit for me, but that was in the Warthog days. And it was pretty rough, man. It was not great, I'm probably mixing up time frames here, but you get the idea. It was not the Linux of today, which is really pretty good. I mean, it's actually better than Mac OS in a lot of respects. But so here we have another example. All roads lead to open source. All roads lead to open platforms. So I think this is a lose for Apple too. Not that Apple cares. They make a lot of money, but maybe it's not a lose for Apple. It's probably fine with Apple. Apple wants to be a consumer devices company. Apple always did want to. Well, Steve Jobs wanted Apple to be a consumer devices company. And in the interregnum between the time Steve Jobs left in the early 90s and then when he came back in 1999, Apple stopped trying to become a consumer devices company. They're well and truly now a consumer devices company. Steve Jobs' death did not change that trajectory. I find it a little, I guess, just kind of disheartening that folks that I know who are otherwise really really positive open source contributors, like really, really good, like excellent, are stuck on Mac OS. Because I think in reality it is really just a cost of moving thing. I don't think they're actually married into the features. Maybe they're married to the integration. They're just locked in the platform because they have an iPhone and whatever. But the lock-in is the reason to leave. You know, that is the reason to leave. But they don't feel the pain yet. I, you know, I I hear people say like, okay, like I buy a MacBook. You know, it comes with so much memory and it comes with so much storage. I'm going to buy another one in 4 years anyway, so I don't really care about upgrading the storage and the RAM. Now everything's going this way. Don't get me wrong. I understand that we're not going to buy the same kind of computers we bought for 30 years. I understand that everything's going to be a system on a chip. There's going to be memory in it, but it's also going to be like $200 or $100, you know, something like that. I'm not going to spend $800 or $1,100 on a MacBook Pro, you know, that I can't upgrade, you know, which is what they're doing now. And I get that sort of that taste of I lease my car because I always want a new one every year, sort of rationalization, which I think is kind of nonsense. But that being said, to each his own, do whatever you want. I just think that the folks who are making open source do themselves a disservice by not using open platforms to develop their software. Like just for example, if I was on Mac OS, I never would have used Nix. Well, I might have used Nix, but I definitely wouldn't have used Nix OS. And Nix OS is fucking awesome. It's awesome. And it is totally different than anything else out there, you know, any other Linux platform out there. And it's totally, it's kind of revolutionary in a way, you know. I mean, it's revolutionary in as far as you can still provide the old thing, but make it in a new way, you know. And there's nothing like that in Mac OS. There isn't. There won't be, you know. Mac OS and iPad OS will be the same thing, and they'll let you do a certain number of things, and yeah, there'll be some sops to developers that want to do more than that, but more and more you are being funneled into this consumer device, you know. And soon enough, really, I don't think Apple really values the folks who use their MacBook to make web apps so much. I could be wrong, you know, but I think most of their money is made on the platform, selling stuff from the App Store, you know, selling the hardware at incredible markup. And now, don't get me wrong, Apple's ARM stuff is fantastic. They're kicking ass, but soon that they won't. It won't be kicking ass for very long. That'll change. Anyway, I think developers do themselves a disservice by using Mac OS now. At least I think I would have done myself a disservice. I mean, I'm also annoyed, like on the iPad or the iPhone, like you can't use a BitTorrent client. Really? It's my fucking device. I'll do whatever I want with it. Now, Android lets you do that. They don't give a shit. But because Apple's in the movie business, right? Fuck you. I don't care you're in the movie business. I mean, there are certain things where Linux is just better than having a Mac. Like if you have an Android phone, and of course most people have Macs don't have Android phone, they have an iPhone. But if you do happen to have an Android phone and you plug it into a Mac, you know what it does? Or at least the last time I checked was like Catalina or something. It doesn't do shit. It doesn't show you the file system. It doesn't let you copy files. It doesn't do shit. It doesn't do anything. I plug it into this laptop, which is running KDE. I can browse it. I can copy my files all around. I can send it shit. I can change stuff. Whatever. It is so much better than plugging in the Mac that it's not even funny. So now, because of these things, I try to keep family and and close friends off of Apple hardware. Where I didn't used to. I actually used to give give somebody Apple TV or whatever. Now I actively try to keep them off it. I'm not going to nag them if they're on it, but if they're not already committed to it, I do not. I try to tell them don't get committed to it. I'm baffled by particularly open source developers' lionization of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is a total piece of shit. Steve Jobs was a piece of shit. I mean, he abandoned his daughter until she was 5. I don't think anything more needs to be said. It doesn't need to be said. He was a piece of shit. Yes, he's a piece of shit. So yes. So, so recently, there's another open platforms thing. Now, I joined Twitter in 2009 or something, just as a lark, and I had a lot of fun on Twitter. I liked it a lot. Before there's an algorithm and everybody's trying to get famous on there and whatever. On the ads, they came up with the algorithm. That was annoying. We just turn it off, and they still got all the ads and stuff, and that's still annoying. But I was, and then I heard all these rumors that people are getting shadow banned and stuff, and okay, that's annoying, but okay, I'm not gonna get shadow banned. I'm pretty sure, because I'm not that politically inclined. So I don't, not a big deal. But what shook me loose from all that was when Elon Musk, for one day, this is another story like the Apple Xcode story where they started charging $25. They stopped that like in 2 days or something, and Elon Musk stopped this in 1 day or 2 days, something like that. But they banned Mastodon links for that period of time, and I was like, nope. I noped off of Twitter. It wasn't because I don't like Elon Musk. That wasn't because, I think all people who have this outrageous fantasy that there's some sort of fascism happening is just hilarious. I'm not a stan, but I'm also not a hater. I find them entertaining sometimes, but that when you prevent my ability to use your platform for the things that I want to do, I'm out. And I do not understand why more people aren't out. I mean, I do understand because they're the things that they think are important are maybe a little further out. Maybe they're not as sensitive to that sort of thing, which is fine. I mean, I don't think that's a failing or anything. But at this point, I have no intent to put new content on Twitter. I post everything to Mastodon, which has its downsides, but whatever. It's fine. It works, So here's some brands I won't even consider. Peloton. Tesla. No. Tesla is the Apple of cars. Sonos. Nope. Linksys, believe it or not. Linksys used to be a great company for having little router devices that you could customize. I bought one maybe 4 years ago, and it was advertised as their open source router or something. Like, it looked a lot like the original WRT 54G one that everybody used back in the day, but it had a chipset that had no open source drivers. So nope. Netgear is what I buy now. Whatever, it works fine. So I think I have no diagnosis for why more folks aren't bothered by this stuff, but and I don't think you should be necessarily bothered, but what you should know is that the open source community is it's like roiling. It's like super dynamic and a lot of times super positive and really engaging and compelling. And to be a part of that, and to, open source developers know what I'm talking about, but even some open source developers, I don't think understand how much Linux has improved since, 5 years ago even. I mean, I'm doing this on Linux. it looks fine, right? Like, I'm going to edit this video in Linux. It works fine. You believe me, you can get everything done in here that you get done over there. You should give it a shot, and also give NixOS a shot. Cool as shit. But you know, I think what folks need to do is, you know, what I would like to see folks do is to not use these platforms. Or if you're going to use the platforms, just use them until it becomes clear that, you know, you're the product or you're being held hostage in whatever way, and then just jump. But know that you're going to jump. You know, don't try to rationalize to yourself at the end and say like, I'll just stick on what I have because, you know, whatever. Just plan ahead. Say, yeah, I'm going to get off this thing. Like right now, I use Android. I have Android. I have like a billion Android. I have so many Android devices. I have like 8 of them or something. But I know that Google's next. I mean, without a doubt, you know, today it's coming. Oh, I feel it coming because today you long press on the screen of an Android device, and Google has this new feature in Android. It's probably been around for a while, but Android 11, 12 maybe. Android has this feature where you see this little Google colored arrow coming out of the side of your left side of your screen. It was never there before. This is on your home screen. And it turns out that's the entertainment space. And the entertainment space is where you go to get entertainment, obviously. But it's obviously you pay Google for your entertainment. And so I shut it off on this device. It's not easy to do, but you could do it. I shut it off, and then all of a sudden I rebooted, and it's back again. All right. Google's next, without a doubt. Now I know Google's next. Now I bought a Pine phone. I have a Pine phone here. Pine phone is terrible. I mean, there's nothing there. It's awful. It's terrible. Yeah, I mean, as a practical device, I mean, it's cool to play around with, you know. But when it becomes obvious that either Ubuntu Touch or one of those other, you know, /E or whatever, and one of those Android de-Googled Android things is good enough to do what I need it to do, which is probably now. Like I haven't looked at that stuff. It's coming. Like whatever. Googleified Androids out the door, right? And that's you just do that. You just keep doing that. Just hop around. You know, I always thought Richard Stallman was a, you know, kind of a weird, paranoid dude, like, you know, quirky old man. But I have come around to while I'm not necessarily a fan of the mechanisms that he uses to address the fears that he has. I come around to recognizing that the fears that he has are real, and we can't be beholden to these enormous companies with not a problem. All right. This is a last note. I said there's a lot of dynamism, a lot of, you know, sort of energy in open source. There's also monetary gain. If people who are new programmers often say like, well, how do I get a job? You know what I mean? There's one super easy way. This is how I did it. You know, back in the day, like I said, I was a dunce. I didn't know a damn thing. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know Python. I didn't even know Perl. I had never, I mean, like I had programmed, you know what I mean? Like I'd written basic programs and I, you know, like done some stuff in like Symantec Q&A database, which had a programming language, and I'd done Excel and Lotus, but I was not a programmer. All right. And I went from that to getting a job at a company where I was basically writing an operating system, like, you know, the Zope thing, in a matter of months, right? This is not a fantasy, you know, I mean, I happen to be right place, right time, but there are lots of opportunities here. And it's not just, it's not all give, it's take. I mean, you can do really well for yourself. So anyway, that's my video. I appreciate you watching. Thanks.